again to Real Shame, a show where the two of us fellers talk about our list of movie blind spots. But it's October, so we change things up slightly. We talk about horror movies all month long, but generally not generally, they're at least a movie that one of us at least has not seen. This week we are talking about sequels. On the last episode, we talked about the sequel to the iconic movie Jaws, titled appropriately enough, Jaws 2.
Yep.
And today we're talking about a sequel that was released 23 years after the original film, the sequel to the movie Psycho.
You have to do it. Contractually obliged to
we do
stab the air. Whenever.
And it is called...
imagine this, Psycho 2.
What?
All right. 22 years of psychiatric care and Norman Bates is now deemed mentally stable. Now that the past is behind him and his mother, he's free to move back to the Bates Hotel and live his life, right? We're going to find out.
Cut it out, Toomey!
Norman?
You talking to me, wacko? Come on. Come on, huh?
What's wrong?
Oh, that's beautiful. Go on, Psycho. Pick it up. Come on, pick it up. What's the matter? You lose your nerve, huh? Or do you only attack women, huh? Go on, pick it up. Show us what you really like. Come on, loony.
So Psycho 2 came out in 1983. It is directed by Richard Franklin, who, according to the IMDb trivia, is a student of Alfred Hitchcock. And I think he studied under him at USC, if I remember correctly.
He was buddies with him.
Buddies with him, okay.
Yeah.
It is written by Tom Holland, not Spider-Man. Right. This is way before him. He wasn't even born then.
Oh.
And it's also written by Robert Bloch. So this movie takes place, like Andy said, 23 years later after the original Psycho, directed by Alfred Hitchcock. We have Norman Bates, Anthony Perkins reprising his role, and he's followed by a bunch of other actors to help fill out the cast. We have Vera Miles as Lily Crane Loomis. We have Meg Tilly as Mary, and we're not sure. You find out what her last name is as the movie goes on.
It's Mary Samuels.
Mary Samuels, yeah. You have, I looked up how to say his name, but I got it. Robert Loggia, I think is, as Dr. Bill Raymond. Anyone else you want to call out from the cast that you...
Just Dennis Franz, who was on NYPD Blue.
He plays Dennis Franz,
Warren Toomey.
Yeah, that's right. For this movie, actually, they were able to use the original house set and reconstruct the motel, the model for the motel. This movie does not follow the sequel book that comes out. It deviates from it, but from what I read, the third one kind of follows the sequel book.
I don't know.
Okay. This is one of three movies, or one of four movies, four Psycho sequels.
And a TV show. Bates Motel.
And then a remake that you haven't seen yet.
Right.
All right, so that's a lot intro on Psycho. It's a movie I haven't seen, but since I'm talking about the movie, we're going to throw it over to Andy. Andy, you've seen Psycho 2 before,
yes. So
how many times have you seen it, and what'd you think about it before watching it, and what'd you feel about it this time around?
I've seen it, this is probably the third or fourth time that I've seen it, but just like Jaws 2, it's been ages and ages since I have seen it, but I have mentioned on the show before, if you've watched any of our other episodes, I have mentioned before that I think Psycho 2 is a worthy sequel to the original film. And watching it now, I love this film. I think Psycho 2 is terrific. I think it's a terrific sequel. Is it an unnecessary sequel? Maybe, but I think a lot of sequels are unnecessary. That doesn't mean they can't be good. Psycho, the original film, which came out in 1960, is obviously a classic. I love Psycho. I've seen that one many, many, many times, including in the theater on a re-release, and I absolutely adore the original Psycho. I think it's a terrific film, still effective after all these years. But I think Psycho 2 is a very smartly done, very intelligently written, very good movie. I'm really a big fan of Psycho 2. I read somewhere that Quentin Tarantino is a huge fan of Psycho 2 and prefers it to the original. I don't prefer it to the original. But I think that this is a terrific sequel, much better than something like Jaws 2. But comparing apples to oranges, I think there. But yeah, I think Psycho 2 is really, really good. Before we get into details of why I like it so much, what about you? Well, first of all, you've seen the original Psycho.
I have.
I don't know how many times or when the last time you saw Psycho. How fresh on your mind is Psycho?
Not fresh enough. I think
Yeah.
I think I should have seen it a little bit more because I think there was some, there's obviously some Easter eggs and stuff through this movie that, when he grabs the key for Suite 1, it's like, or he's going to go for it, but doesn't. I'm sure that if I've seen Psycho recently, I would have known.
Yeah.
But I think the movie gives me enough context to kind of understand what's going on there.
Right.
So I've seen the original a handful of times. I've seen the remake once in theaters. So I beat you there the only time. So yeah, and this is my first time watching it or any of the sequels.
Okay.
And I'm going to echo what you said. I think this movie is really clever. Is the word I wrote down for
Sure
it.
is.
I think, like you said, it's they did the way they kind of broke it and the way they decided to tackle this story is very interesting and very smart. And I think it does a lot. And they're not trying to rehash the old story.
Not at all.
But they they are a little bit. So they're not really, but there's enough callbacks. There's enough, credit given to the source material. There's enough, respect given to the source material. But this movie can kind of live on its own, which I think is really, really interesting. And that's what I mean by that it is kind of a remake. Or it's not, it's a rehash of that in that kind of aspect of it. So yeah, I like how you get like the original, shot, from it. And then you kind of zoom out and then we goes to Bates Motel. And then while we're on the exterior of the Bates Motel, the color starts coming in and stuff like that. Like, I think that's a clever way to do that, to kind of like reestablish ourselves in the world and kind of bring it up to the modern age. I thought that was very cool and very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I like this film a lot. And as you said, I don't feel like, because the original film, obviously, and we're going to somewhat spoil the original film, you kind of have to, I think, and you should have seen Psycho by now. Come on. If you haven't seen it, turn it off, watch Psycho, then come back.
Yeah.
But in the original film, obviously it's Norman Bates dressing up as his mother, going crazy and killing people. This movie, you think it could be him, but you're not really sure. And I love the reveal because Vera Miles reprises, however you want to say it, her role as Lila. She apparently got married to Sam Loomis, who was, what's her name? I'm blanking on Janet Leigh. Janet Leigh's boyfriend, I think, in the first film. But then they team up once Janet Leigh is killed in the shower in the original film. Well, now Vera Miles is an old, bitter woman, and she does not want Norman released from the asylum. And
she shows up at the court day with some signatures.
That's right. She's got the petition. She wants him to be recommitted, and they're like, there's nothing we could do. Just leave him alone. Well, then Norman starts to get strange notes that are reportedly from his mother. Get that bitch out of my house, or whatever they say. Stuff like that. But she ends up being, and again, we're spoiling Psycho 2, so please watch it if you haven't already. She ends up being Meg Tilly, or Mary's mother.
Yes.
And I love the reveal of that when she comes upon her in the house and she's like, "Mother."
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay. I get where this is going. So they are trying to drive Norman crazy so that he will go back to the asylum.
Send him back to the...
Meanwhile, you've got some murders being committed. Surely Vera Miles' character wouldn't go so far as to murder, but you don't know.
Yeah, that's the great thing about this movie is they didn't really spell it out for you, like who did it. And I'm curious on your take. Maybe when you're done, we can talk about who we think actually did it. I don't think the movie gives you a definitive answer.
It doesn't, but I think it's his actual mother, because she's crazy.
Oh,
his adopted
I didn't
mother.
even consider that.
I think it's her. She's mad about what they're doing to Norman.
Oh, and okay, yeah. I didn't even. I was either it's like Vera Miles or Anthony Perkins is doing it, and I didn't even consider, because again at the end too, if you just got one twist, you get two twists, because you find out that so as the movie's going on, he's talking to his mother. He's like, "Oh wait, that's not my real mother."
Right.
And you're like,
and you just think he's crazy.
Yeah, you think he's crazy, and he just like because he sees the body of his mother from the first movie, and you're thinking, oh, this is just his way of kind of rationalizing, still talking to her when he's seen her body and it's dead, and it's kind of, breaking all of, Dr. Raymond's kind of psychological tricks to keep him sane. And then you find out at the end that, no, his mother, that was his sister, or sister. It's awesome.
He actually killed.
It's really great.
Yeah, and because it makes it kind of ironic. He actually, if you believe that his adopted mother commits all the murders, he only kills one person in this movie, and that's his adopted mother, so that he can put her dead body up there and take on the mother persona
in this
once
movie,
again.
right? Because he killed his mother,
right?
Oh yeah, and he had the murders
his
before.
Aunt in the first. What now you find out what's his aunt actually in the first film. So yeah, this movie's incredibly smart. I feel like, and incredibly well done. It's just a lot of fun. I think it's a really cool, and yeah, he gets a lot of strange phone calls throughout the movie. Some of them are from Vera Miles, but some of them are from his actual adopted mother. But you, as the audience, don't. You just think it's Vera Miles or something the whole time.
Yeah.
So, and then I love the fact that Meg Tilly puts on the wig and it's like, no, I'm your mother. Get off the phone. So you have this whole kind of interplay going on. It's just a really, really cool movie. I think one of the better or best sequels that you could possibly do, if you're going to do a sequel to a movie that's as iconic as Psycho, I don't think you can do a much better sequel than Psycho 2. Upon watching it this time, I absolutely love this movie. I think I enjoyed it more than I ever have. I think this is a terrific sequel. 3 and 4, it's been a long time since I've seen those. I can't comment on those, but I don't think those hold a candle to this Psycho 2.
I agree.
It's a wonderful film.
And I think this kind of is the predecessor for a lot of these Lego sequels we get, where we get sequels from movies like 10 or 20 years later, like we're going to get with Matrix 4 here in a little bit, right?
Yep.
And it's a good way to kind of show the passage of time. I think it would have been not as great if it took place immediately after or something like that.
Yeah.
That the time has passed and all that kind of stuff. So I'm with you. I really, really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was really well done and really interesting, and just a great take on it. Like, really smart.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like they did their homework and figured out the good way to do this.
I am very, very pleased that you enjoyed it. I think it's a terrific film. I did want to make one other note about Richard Franklin. I thought this was cool. He actually he's Australian, but he went to USC and was a student alongside John Carpenter, Robert Zemeckis, and George Lucas. So he hobnobbed. But yeah, when he was at USC, he actually, I think he called Hitchcock, or Hitchcock called him, and they struck up a friendship.
Oh, great. Awesome.
Hitchcock died in 1980, so he did not see the sequel to Psycho. But I think his daughter, Patricia, gave it her blessing. She said, oh, he would have loved it. Richard Franklin did a movie called Patrick, which is a very cult classic kind of film with a comatose, telekinetic Patrick. He's a patient in a hospital. It's kind of a strange movie, but it's pretty enjoyable. But before he did Psycho 2, he did a movie called Road Games with Stacy Keach and Jamie Lee Curtis, and I believe he met Jamie Lee Curtis on the set of Escape from New York. Although she's not in that movie physically, she does do the voice of the computer, I believe, the security system, something like that. So he met her when he went to visit his buddy John Carpenter on Escape from New York. So she's in Road Games. And Road Games has been described as Rear Window on the Road. And it was filmed in Australia. And it's a cool movie. We'll probably do it at some point.
And I heard that she was also going to be Meg Tilly's character. Like they were considering her for
they talked
role.
about her being the Meg Tilly character. And Meg Tilly was, I think, a relatively new actress at this point. She did The Big Chill the same year as Psycho 2, so she had a pretty banner year in 1983. She did not get along with Anthony Perkins on the set, what I read. They clashed a little. And I found it interesting. She actually was born in 1960 when Psycho originally came out. She's a Valentine's Day baby. She was born on February the 14th.
There you go.
All right. One final note. Also, I already said one final note about Richard Franklin, but I was going to mention,
PPS.
I didn't realize this. Anthony Perkins, when he died in 1992, he left behind 2 sons and a wife. His wife was aboard American Airlines Flight 11 that crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center.
I did not know
so
that.
she died almost 10 years later. But his 2 sons are both entertainers. Elvis Perkins is a musician. Love his name, Elvis. And Oz, or Osgood, I think is his full name. But Oz, he actually plays young Norman in this movie. You just see a brief flash as Norman is having a flashback to poisoning his mother. But Oz plays the young Norman in Psycho 2. But Oz went on to be both an actor and a director, currently, He's actually in Legally Blonde. He plays dorky David Kidney.
I remember the now. Puts everything
yeah,
together.
he's in Legally Blonde. He's acted in some other things, but recently he's become a writer and a director. He wrote and directed The Blackcoat's Daughter, which I haven't seen, but I've heard good things about. He wrote and directed I'm the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House, which I've not heard good things about. And he did not write, but he directed the Gretel and Hansel movie that came out a year or so ago. Yeah, which, we didn't see, but I know we saw previews for it. So that's all of my final notes. It's 60% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, 55% audience score, but we both encourage you to see Psycho 2. Sure. And probably rewatch or watch Psycho 1. Obviously, if you've never seen Psycho, watch Psycho 1. But if you haven't seen Psycho in a while, rewatch Psycho 1, then go right into Psycho 2. I think they make an excellent double feature. It got 2 thumbs down, but I watched the Siskel and Ebert review. They're both pretty praising of the film. They actually talk about how it's better than the average slasher and that it's well made and all these other things. But because it's unnecessary, thumbs down, which I think is silly because it's a good movie. It's a really good movie. And Leonard Maltin, once again, just like Jaws 2, he gave it 2.5 stars.
Yeah, it's not deserving of those rankings.
No, it's a very, very good film. So see it.
See it soon, guys.
All right, so that's everything you want to know about Psycho 2.
Everything you want to know about Psycho 2 and more. So let us know if you've seen Psycho 2. If you're watching us on YouTube, leave a comment down below. If you're listening to us, shoot us an email. The email address is realshame@gmail.com. This was part 2 of our 3 horror movie sequels for the month of October. So watch part 1 if you haven't seen it. That was, what did we do?
Jaws 2.
Jaws 2. This is Psycho 2. And then for the third movie to round everything out, we're going to do the
Exorcist 3. So a third movie as well.
There we go. So stay tuned for that, guys. We'll see you on Friday with that episode. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.